Hey y'all, it has been an entire year, actually over a year, since I have done a book outlet haul. If you're looking for some inspiration, I actually did get books this time, but I'm also going to talk about how I went an entire year without purchasing books from Book Outlet and what I actually learned over that entire year, so stick around. We'll get to the haul in just a second, but I want to just share a couple of things with you. Yes, I went well over a year. It was actually a little bit closer to a year and a half without making a single Book Outlet purchase. That doesn't mean that I didn't buy any books. I actually did do a library haul because our library had 4 books for $1, so of course, that was reasonable. But I had told myself that for all of last year, I was not going to purchase any additional books because we have a ton of books and we still had plenty that we hadn't read through yet. And one of the main reasons that I did consistent Book Outlet hauls was to kind of grow our home library and fill it full of good books. And I had successfully accomplished that. And so there was no need to just continue buying books just to buy books. I had plenty to go with all of the studies that we had planned for the year. That's actually where I created the 50 states unit study, was from the 50 states book that I purchased in one of those Book Outlet hauls. And so I just told myself, I am not buying books from Book Outlet, which also then led to thrift books and Amazon. This is the first one since, I believe, September of 2022, I think is what it was. And what I learned is you can actually do it. You actually can not buy books. And I think that's a really hard thing, especially for homeschool moms, as we see all of these new books coming out and we're watching read aloud reviews and book hauls from other moms, and we see books on social media. Everything looks good. And there are so many good books out there that it feels really difficult to not make those purchases. And while some of them may be necessary, right, depending on your curriculum, you can actually set a boundary and you can stick to it. The easiest way for me was I just didn't even go on bookoutlet.com. I actually removed it as a bookmark from my desktop, on my internet browser. So I didn't even see it. And I never opened a single Book Outlet email. I would just, as soon as the email would come through, I would delete it and get rid of it and not even look at it or read it, because the temptation's always there, right? You open the email and something is on sale or whatever. And so I just knew that if I started to look, then I would end up purchasing. And so I just never looked, and that really made a huge difference for me. Another thing that really helped was utilizing our local public library. Our libraries actually have pretty good selection of books, and they keep the rotation pretty fresh. There is new books on the shelves every week that we go in, so they're always getting new books in and getting rid of some of the older titles. If there was a time where we needed new books for a new unit study we were doing, or a new subject, or my daughter just wanted some new fresh books to read, we would just go to the library instead. Now, one thing with our library is we actually only get to keep a book checked out for 2 weeks, which never feels like enough. And you can only do one renewal. So at maximum, you can only have a library book out for 1 month, and then you must return it. And so that is where I realized some of the books that we're getting, the picture books, the curriculum specific for smaller unit studies, library is great for that because we can kind of go through those pretty quickly and return them. But read alouds, or books that we need for a longer period of time, really make it very difficult when using our public library because we can only have it out for a total of 1 month. And so through this year of learning all of these things, I've realized that actually using thrift books and Book Outlet is really helpful for more of those longer term books, or books that maybe we want to be able to return to in a few months, or maybe even books that we will use in the coming years. Which led me to the Book Outlet haul that I have for you today. I really, really want to do a better job of read alouds, physical read alouds. Audiobooks works wonderfully for us, and so we will continue to use those. But I do really want to include physical books in our homeschool a little bit more as read alouds. And so I realized those would be the really great things for me to invest in from Book Outlet, because those will be physical books that we'll have that I can use as read alouds now, and that my daughter can read as independent readers a little bit later, when she's a little bit older. But we also are on no time constraint because read aloud can be such a sticking point for us. And so I decided if I'm going to go back to Book Outlet purchases, I'm going to focus on books that we can use as read alouds now, that my daughter can use as independent readers later, kind of more of our classics, things like that. So without further ado, the Book Outlet haul. Of course, the link to Book Outlet will be down in the description. First up, this book is The Train to Impossible Places by P.G. Bell. I actually think Tori Oglesby, she doesn't have a YouTube channel anymore. She used to be the Oglesby Ohana. If she's still here on YouTube, I will link her channel for you. You guys may remember her. Anyways, I saw this maybe on her YouTube a while ago, or maybe even just her Instagram. But she was reading this book. Sounds really cool, looks cool. It says it's a train that travels through impossible places, a boy trapped in a snow globe, and a girl who's about to go on the adventure of a lifetime. So this may be one that we save for when we're feeling a little adventurous. I may even try and save this for the fall when we are out of school and really try and kind of build that read aloud muscle, both for me and for my daughter. But I wanted to grab it because it has looked really cool and really fun. Next up is, of course, I have wanted to read these so bad. Every time I see them, I'm like, man, I need to get them and I just need to do it. And so finally, I am making the commitment that we will do it. And I really want to do these when we are out of school also, but The Vanderbeekers on 141st Street. So this is book 1. And then we also got book 2, which is The Vanderbeekers and the Hidden Garden. And of course, over here on our bookshelves, I actually have book 3 of The Vanderbeekers, because I found that on Book Outlet a couple of years ago when the Vanderbeekers were first kind of showing up in the homeschool world. And that's the one that I was able to find. And I think that one is actually book 3. So now we have books 1 through 3, and I just need to read them. Next up is The Wind and the Willows. This may be one of those that we start with because it is kind of a smaller, a lighter read. Will be kind of easier for us to go through, but also because in that library haul that I actually got a book called Return to the Willows, and it's written as a sequel to this book, but in the front of that book, it suggests reading this before you go into reading that one. So we're going to read this one first, and then we can hop into that Return of the Willows book. So I was looking for smaller chapter books, and of course, The Toothpaste Millionaire. So kind of like the Wind in the Willows book, it's a smaller chapter book. It's a lighter, easier read. I grabbed The Toothpaste Millionaire and The 100 Dresses. Part of my going back and making these purchases with Book Outlet was so that I would get books, one that we could read aloud, but also we could do as independent readers. Keeping that in mind, and keeping in mind the fact that we're not a very strong read aloud family. It's not my favorite activity. It's not something that we do very often, but it is an area that I want to get better at and I want to grow in. And so because of that, these 3 kind of smaller, easier, light chapter books feel much more attainable than these 3. the Vanderbeekers, right? There is a huge difference in size of these books versus these books. While, yes, I do want to read these, realistically, this isn't the place to start. This is the place to start. So we're going to add these to our list. I am going to let my daughter pick which one she wants to start with. And that's where we will start with read alouds. And that is my way of saying, yes, I can buy books again on Book Outlet, but I need to be mindful of what I'm purchasing. There needs to be a specific reason, not just because I want bookshelves full of books. While that can be helpful, it also can be harmful in the fact that you have all of these books just sitting here and not being used, and now you don't have enough space for the books that you actually want to read or need to read for your next homeschool year. Along with this Book Outlet haul, I actually did get some books from Thrift Books and Amazon as well. I will link that video here for you. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.